I'm Lorella. Today we're going to talk about planning your garden calendar for seeds and plants.
I'm Lorella. This is Plan B Orchard and Farm, where we're all about helping you take small, manageable steps towards a more peaceful and sustainable lifestyle.
There are several ways you can figure out what to plant when and how to start it, but today I'm going to talk about my 4 favorite seed planning, calendar planning guides. When I started gardening 7 years ago, I tried to read gardening books. I tried to look stuff up online, and it was so much information that it was overwhelming for me. So we're going to take gardening and we're going to break it down into little bitty tiny steps so that hopefully you won't feel that overwhelmed. Today we're starting with a brand new blank calendar. You can pick whichever planner works for you. I personally like the ones that have nice big squares in them, so I have plenty of room to write down anything I want to. I also like to have a list on the side here, and I'll show you how I use that in a minute. The next thing I want you to do is think about the vegetables that your family likes to eat. What is it that you find yourself putting on the grocery list week after week? Here in our house, it's carrots, salad, bell peppers, and onions and potatoes. It's a pretty simple list, and there might be a little bit of variety, but those are pretty much the basics. So if you are starting out as a brand new gardener, I suggest that you just start with whatever it is your family eats the most of. Now that you've got your list of things that you want to grow, how do you know when to start them? There are several ways you can figure out what to plant when and how to start it, but today I'm going to talk about my 4 favorite seed planning, calendar planning guides. With any of these methods that I'm going to show you right now, the one thing you're going to have to know is your last frost date. Let's say you were given the spaghetti squash seed right here. Typically, this is the same spaghetti squash that they grow in Minnesota, that they're going to grow here in Missouri, and then they're going to grow in South Florida. There are some seeds that are developed for certain zones, they're a little bit more cold hardy and stuff, but just in general, let's say you're going to start with this spaghetti squash seed. So how do I know? Because I'm not going to start it at the same time as the people in Florida who probably don't get a frost or have very infrequent frosts. And the person who's up in northern Minnesota whose winter ends much later than mine, they can't start it at the same time either. So that's why when you look at things, most of the things that you look at are going to say you need to start your seeds indoors so many weeks before your last frost date. Or they're going to say you can plant this directly outdoors in your garden as soon as the last frost, or 2 weeks before the last frost, or something like that. So that's the one thing that you're going to have to find out. And the easiest way to do it is just to search online. Just put in your zip code, search out your last frost date. Now what you have to remember is that that's going to be a general guideline, because Mother Nature, the weather, does not follow our calendar, right? So some years your frost date's going to be a little bit beyond that, and some days your last frost is going to be a little bit before that, but that will give you a general guideline. And what you can do is start your plants indoors, and then you want to wait and transplant it after you're fairly certain that you've had your last frost. So I usually, when it gets close to my last frost date, I'll look at the future cast on the weather for about 2 weeks out. And if we don't have any frost predicted for the next 2 weeks after the last frost date, then I'm pretty sure that I'm safe in getting my plants out in the garden. When you get seeds, they're going to come in a packet. And often the back of the packet will have a lot of information about how to grow the plant, starting from seed. This is a sunflower seed from Johnny's Seed Company, and their packets are jam-packed full of information on the back with things like how to grow it, how to start it, what kind of soil it needs, how to space them. I mean, it's got lots. But what happens when your very generous friend gives you a little baggie and all it says in it is mortgage lifter tomato and spaghetti squash? What do you do then? Before I start showing you these 4 tools that I really love, I want to say I'm not sponsored by any of them. These are tools I personally use and that I recommend. My absolute favorite tool for beginning gardeners to use would be Clyde's Garden Planner. Now would be a great time to hit the subscribe button and hit the notification bell so you'll know when a new video comes out. I'm all about breaking down all the farming things into small steps so that it's not overwhelming. Our last frost date here in Zone 6B in southern Missouri is April 15th. So I'm going to slide this red line. I'm going to make sure that my garden calendar is on the spring side, and I'm going to slide the red line to where it lines up with about where April 15th would be. Clyde is from Missouri, and I've met him. Super nice guy. And I met him and his wife, actually. And they put together this list of about 20 different vegetables that are commonly grown. And so you look at the vegetable, and so let's just pick one of the ones that I want to plant. We will say lettuce. So I look down the side of the row, I find leaf lettuce. And then I can follow over to right here where there's a little tiny SI above my finger. That means that's when I can start seeding it indoors. And to the right of that, you'll see FP. FP on this planner stands for first planting. So that's when you can plant them outdoors. And the FP means you can transplant your seedlings that you've started inside out into the garden. You can also direct sow your seeds into the garden when it says first planting. And so the seed indoors date is March 8th, and the first planting is March 29th. All right, so now that I know when lettuce is going to be planted, I'm going to turn to March calendar. Since March 8th falls on a Monday, I'm going to go back to the Saturday previous to that, which is the 6th. I might do some planting on a Monday, but it's more likely that I would be on a Saturday. So I'm going to write all my planting dates on the Saturdays. So I'm going to turn to March 6th. I'm going to write SI for seed indoors. And then all the plants that can be seeded indoors on that date, I'm going to write under the SI. I'm going to use this brown marker for all my seed indoor dates. You don't have to color code it, I just like to. Now that's not the only date that I can seed lettuce indoors, because I can continue to seed it indoors all the way through the transplant date and even up a little bit later. So when was that first plant date? Do you guys remember? It was, where's lettuce? First planting March 29th. So I'm going to keep writing seed indoors on the next 2 weeks down. So I've written seed indoors, leaf lettuce, leaf lettuce, leaf lettuce, 3 weeks in a row. And then on this one, I put TP for transplant, leaf lettuce. And I'm going to flip the page into April, and I'm going to write transplant leaf lettuce on the first 2 Saturdays in April to line up with the first 3 plantings that I did in March. Now I want to talk to you some more about some of the other features, the other information that Clyde's Garden Planner has on it. For each vegetable, it will tell you how many seeds to plant in a 10-foot row, what is the planting depth for each seed, what is the distance between rows or hills, what is the distance between plants in each row, what is the minimum daily sun requirement. The little green check marks are your expected harvest dates, and then in blue it tells you the approximate produce yield per 10-foot row, and it also has a companion planting guide. And then one really handy thing about Clyde's planner is that you just turn it over like this. You slide this red line to your first frost date of the fall, and now you have all the planting dates, all the planting guidelines to plant a fall garden. I'll include the link in the description down below. I highly recommend this item. Buy one for yourself, buy one for a friend. This second tool that I'm going to show you is a brand new tool that my friend Sarah made, and it's called the Seed Starting Cheat Sheets from Living Traditions Homestead. This is a pretty awesome little tool here. So she has been planting for years and years and years. She's been making notes of how she starts all her seeds. She's compiled it into one document and she's sharing it with us. It's $2. I bought mine yesterday and I've been looking at it and I really like it. So there's one page, it's a 3-page document, well 4 including the cover sheet. 1 page for veggies, 1 page for herbs, 1 page for flowers. Let's take a close-up look at Sarah's seed starting guide for vegetables. So she has the first column is the name of the vegetable, followed by the number of weeks to start your seeds before planting, your seed depth in inches, whether they need to be on a heat mat or not, and any special notes. Let's take a look at peppers. Bell peppers are something we eat tons of here. So I just follow to the first column and it says start seeds number of weeks before planting, and it's 8. So 8 weeks before they go out in the garden. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick up my brown marker, my brown pen for starting seeds indoors, and I'm going to find my last frost date, which is April, and I'm going to count back 8 weeks prior to my last frost date. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That brings me all the way back to Saturday, February 20th. So I'm going to write in here, SI bell peppers. I've already got seed indoors written right here, so I'm just going to add bell peppers right under where it says leaf lettuce. I plan on starting bell peppers 4 weeks in a row. Why did I put seed indoors 4 weeks in a row for this plant? Why not just seed it once and that's it? It's because I really want a lot of them and I want to have a long harvesting season. So if I planted all my bell pepper seeds in 1 week, then all those plants would finish out about the same time. This way, I'm just extending my harvest period a little longer. Now I'm going to jump ahead to April, and then I'm going to put transplant bell peppers for 4 weeks. Let's talk about the next 2 tools that I like to use. The next one is from the University of Missouri Extension Office, and it's a vegetable planting calendar. This has a lot of resources in it, and if you're in Missouri, I highly recommend it. If you're in another state, I would ask your state extension and see whether they have anything similar. So this is a several-page document, and on the beginning, it's going to tell you how many plants you need to plant per person for a year's worth of food. Now it's going to have the list of vegetables that are commonly grown here. It's going to have suggested varieties. It's going to have some comments about how to grow it, what it tastes like, things like that. And it's also going to have your start dates to plant it for both spring and fall, divided into which part of Missouri you're in. So this is a really useful tool. Now again, the first year I looked at this, too much information for me, too overwhelming. So if you are a few years into your gardening journey and you're kind of getting comfortable with planting seeds and growing vegetables, this is a great resource. If you're a brand new gardener, you could try it. You know, you might have you might learn a little more quickly than I do, but for me it was too much when I first started out. This is a resource from Johnny's Selected Seeds, and it's a planting calendar. So basically, you enter in your last frost date, and it's going to tell you when you can start your seeds. This is a great resource. In this column, it tells you when to start your seeds indoors, and in this column, it tells you when to set them out. You could do everything from here if you wanted to. I prefer to get it all in one calendar, all in one place, and in calendar order. This might seem like a lot of work up front, and it can be. However, I did a calendar last year, and guess what? All of these dates are going to be the same for this year, right? All I have to do is transfer them over to the nearest Saturday for 2021. So you only really have to do this once unless you're adding in a type of vegetable you haven't grown before. So it really makes it easy. And then I've got it all in order. And what I will do is I will transfer all of this to a whiteboard above my desk each month so that I can just look at a glance when I get up and see what I need to do. I also use this calendar to keep track of other things were going on the farm. On this month, we were doing rabbit breeding and kindling and things like that. And then I said I would tell you what I do in this last column. I simply use it as my monthly to-do list. I really hope that I've helped break down planning your garden calendar into something that's going to be easy for you to manage. If you have any questions, if I didn't cover anything clearly, please leave me a comment and let me know. Also, let me know what you would like to know about for gardening basics. What else can I help you with? Thank you so much for watching and have a great weekend.